of Hard Knocks. We are here with Marty. I have been loving doing these interviews, meeting new people, talking to people, giving people the opportunity to have a platform to come in here and resonate with a lot more people because my journey is a little bit different. So I think it's so great that we get people who are coming in that are healing, right? They're stuck in their healing. So Marty's going to share her story with us today. Welcome, Marty. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Darcie. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, can you start by sharing a little bit about yourself and what your life looked like for you growing up?
Okay. As of now, I'm relatively healthy, physically and mentally wise, but that took a lot of work. Okay. Growing up as a child, I really didn't feel like I grew up. I felt like I survived. I
Mm,
felt like I'm the oldest daughter out of five and the middle child. And I always tried to keep everything just right. I was the emotional confidant for almost every single adult in my life, starting from a very young age. So I was raised to be that enabler and the soother. And that didn't keep me from being abused. It's like I was logical enough to be heard, listening to adult issues, but if I ignorantly did something as a child, we're talking 2x4s, we're talking broomsticks, we're talking toilet bowl plungers, we're talking hair ripped out, toes pulled and halfway broken just to wake somebody up. And it just wasn't that. Mass amounts of manipulation, narcissistic behavior, and on both parties, uh, husband and wife. And I appreciated understanding why. And I always asked, and there's something that came to my attention rather early, that they were pretty broken themselves.
mhm,
And they had those reasons to perpetuate the abuse in their own mind. So, like, I had a conversation with my father this last month, and he's in between times right now. His second wife of 35 years passed, and he was coming back into our lives and was asking questions. And what I was realizing is he was actually kind of enjoying
mhm,
me reliving all of these traumatic things. And from those situations, I've had to have a full lumbar fusion. I There are facet joints that looked like spider webs held them together, and it showed my growth plates how they had been broken and rebroken and broken and rebroken. So went through that and having this conversation. My father, he's like, no one ever told me it was wrong.
mhm,
I told him, you know, and that having that conversation of, sitting there pouring him whiskey when my hand's like really small, he's all like, well, a shot is just your hand, baby girl. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there listening to this grown man's problems by the age of 4 or 5 and being seen as logical enough to give advice, but I was never seen as someone that they could sit down and communicate with and help me understand what I was doing ignorantly wrong. You
mhm,
know, I'm personally like a firm believer that children are inherently extremely intelligent. We are born to be eager. We are born to we have no idea of what respect is. That is something that is led and taught. So it's like growing up in a church situation, and the elders and the church situation, they knew what was going on. Nobody ever said anything, not to him and not to my mother. They were very competitive, uh, narcissistic child beaters who were
Mm.
extremely emotionally manipulative and very head gamey. It's like you did not have the vernacular and the words, um, me, which my mother is like really, really happy to engage in this type of communication. And yes, it's raised me to be very articulate. I think before I speak. I think a lot
Mhm,
before I
yeah.
speak usually. And it's like having that. I try to turn all these things over and see how, you know, given the anxiety, like having no tools to clean the house, and we had a two-story carpeted house, and my father's psych issues or whatever would cause him such great anxiety if there was something, and so having boots in the back, in the side, being thrown down the stairs if somebody ate food in the middle of the night and there was a dish in the sink. And I grew up understanding that as much as I tried to take control over that situation, I wasn't in control over that situation. It didn't matter if I stayed up till 11 to make sure that the house was clean. Father was going to get up at 4:30, and one of the boys was going to eat a midnight snack, and it just wasn't that at the house. It was like not being able to leave the house. It's like the boys, they were able to go out and about. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, what? You know, it's like I moved back to my hometown and it's all brand new because I never got to go anywhere. That sort of situation. And then there was some sexual abuse that happened towards, I think, every one of my siblings. If it wasn't from our mother's father, it my mother. Um, I asked her where babies came from, and she showed me. And I was like 6, 7 years old. And do I hold these things against them? Not after like 2+ decades of going to counseling every week. You are doing this here to give people an area, a container, if you will, to understand the school of hard knocks.
Mhm.
It's all like, yeah, I got knocked to smithereens. Okay. But when I left that situation, I refused to stay in that headspace. I refused to stay in that headspace. So especially after I became pregnant with my son, and forgiveness has a lot to do with moving forward. Even if even if they think that you were a little bicth and you
Mhm.
deserved everything you got. The forgiveness, people, it's not for them. It's for you. It is for you to celebrate that you called them out on everything that your heart feels, that your mind can remember, and you let it go. Okay. Now, are there still triggers? Yes. I get into certain areas and people are talking back and forth and they're getting shiny. Um, I get my drama stage voice on, and it's not exactly yelling, but it's a mama voice.
Mhm.
And if it's like somewhere out in public, I find my way to the door because I'm that type of person. If I see somebody with a bruise, instantaneously, my heart says they have been abused. Okay. So it makes me stand up. I am the type of person that if your child is showing signs of being abused, I will talk to you. I'm not going to threaten you, but I will let you know. Okay. You know, if I see a woman out by herself and she's like cowered down and she's trying to enjoy her dinner by herself, but she's worried because of the guy at the house, I'll sit down with her. We'll shoot the shite. We're going to have a great conversation, and I'm going to ask her, what else besides taking yourself out to dinner are you doing for yourself?
Yeah.
How are you filling your own cup?
Hmm.
Now, I know I'm talking a lot. What's your other questions?
I mean, I absolutely love everything. I mean, when going all the way back to when you even said the reason, right, that they did it. So
Yep.
I had this conversation the other day with somebody, and I said, you know, I don't know how else to label it. I feel like I have to come up with a terminology for it because it's more of like, even if you say an understanding why. So my dad's parents, I don't call them my grandparents because they never were to me, but
Right.
my dad's parents would beat my dad and they would have him and his brother fight for entertainment for their friends, you know,
Yep.
call them all kinds of names. And it's like, I don't want to say there's a reason for it, there's an understanding for it, but in a way, it's like I get it. I get it, but I don't get it. You know, like I wish my dad would have been stronger to break the cycle like we have.
Right.
You know, but I mean,
Yeah.
so that kind of stood out to me. And then we need more people that are noticing this stuff out in public and not being afraid to comfort somebody. You know, not being afraid to just walk up and say, "Hey, how are you?" Just even opening the door for somebody to have a conversation.
See, here's the thing. I'm the type of person that, like, if you ask me a question, I'd say yes, ma'am, no,
Mhm.
ma'am. Okay, out of respect. That's the type of respect that I give a child. If there's a child, like, say at the grocery store, and I'm halfway in their way, I'll move my cart and
Mhm.
I will express manners. I will express empathy and understanding that I'm taking up the whole row. Okay, what we have to realize is it just didn't start with our fathers. Okay, trauma, the T, not the D,
Mhm.
trauma has been happening since Cain and Abel.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you want, and I'm not making this into a scriptural thing, okay, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, so I have some understanding of the Bible, but I've come to this understanding with my own parents by having understanding of their parents, that it's a generational thing that rolls downhill.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to say, and not to say it was their fault. It was
Mhm.
their fault. It was their fault. There are some things that I've done in my life that I'm totally disgusted about, but it was natural and it was my parents' fault. Okay. Like staying in a toxic, abusive relationship just because the man's got a smart ass mouth and so do I.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an addiction to what the brain was used to as a child. Okay. Getting overwhelmed, like I am on the autistic spectrum as well, and it's like I didn't realize that until I had my own son, and then I was all like, we were doing I set up play therapy because I wanted to understand how to communicate with this person, how to respect his needs and communicate so he could comprehend. Okay. Everybody needs that. Everybody deserves that grace. Okay. Now, meeting people where they're at. Okay. Say you're out in public, and just because, okay, I didn't grow up rich, and I'm pretty sure you didn't either.
Nope.
So, hand-me-downs, Goodwill, Aunt Salivation Army,
Mm-hmm.
wearing hand-me-downs from my older brothers and everything. Okay, so when I see families like that now, I don't feel like that's abuse. Being on the lower spectrum of financial means does not make one abusive.
Absolutely.
Having a child have to wear hand-me-down clothes, as long as they're clean and presentable, is not abusive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have all this whole passel of kids and you were already worn thin after 3 of them, and you got this whole line of babies behind you, and you're screaming at them, you're calling them names, you're talking down to them like they're stupid. Well, you know what? They probably are, because you're not stepping up and being a parent. Clothing has nothing to do with it. Hairstyle has nothing to do with it. If that baby boy wants to like have rainbow hair colors all through their hair, if they want to wear dreads, if they want to self-express themselves, as long as it's done in a healthy manner, why not?
Yeah.
Okay. But the expressions, like watching children interact, okay, and you can see, like, we're the older sisters,
Mm-hmm.
like we're always responsible, we're always that responsible person. And probably like me, you took a lot of the beatings
Yeah.
because you were the one responsible, when your parents were the ones responsible, and they let themselves down and took it out on you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in public, when I see these children trying to parent each other, I know that they live underneath a stressful roof, because they don't want the big, tall people to get involved.
Yeah.
I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling. So when I see that, I go and I offer my help. If I'm out in public and at a social thing, I'm not seeing myself as better than. I see myself as having the foundation to understand that, hey, mama, you're tired. I'm going to sit right here. Is that okay? You know,
Yeah.
that's called community. That's
Mm-hmm.
called a village. Okay. Now, growing up in that abusive situation, it's like my father's like close to 7 foot tall, and my mom's just like right at 6 foot. So tall, very overweight slash muscular people. So everybody was like, I guess, scared of them.
Yeah.
I ain't scared of nobody. I ain't scared of nobody. What they need to be is scared of somebody calling CPS or DHS, and that's not a threat. That's not a threat. That's a promise.
Yes.
Because a lot of people forget. Now I'm using scripture again.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is a good gift. A child is supposed to be seen as a good gift, and a lot of people are not seen as a good gift because their parents weren't seen as a good gift, and they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And where to start is to find forums like this that show you ways to express yourself confidently. And if you can't do that, at home, first off, home is where the heart is. And if you cannot express yourself, even on your worst days, without anger, you might want to think about what home means to you.
I love that.
There, you should always feel safe, at peace, and confident in your home. And if you have people, say like me, you get addicted to somebody's magnificent smart ass mouth, you start spending that piece. You
Mhm.
start giving it away for something that you think you need in your life.
Yeah.
If it doesn't bring you peace, joy, or love, it's not right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's male or female. It's male or female. If you have been crushed so much, if you've been crushed so much as a child that just about anything looks like love,
Yeah.
I would suggest celibacy. I
Mm-hmm.
would suggest understanding, and that's another thing. Oh my gosh. There's a study between like people who found their sexuality or their spirituality first and how those lives are led. Okay. So you when you find yourself growing, the least interaction with the past is best. I mean you cannot heal while you are still trying to gain love and affection from those that broke you.
Yes.
They cannot give it because they are not capable of it. But at one time they were. So I am a firm believer that it may take my dad until death's door to realize and to grow up. Okay, I'm a firm believer that those who harm children, I mean, it's like having a heavy weight, a millstone around their neck. Okay, and even if they're not a Christian, karmatically speaking, you got a lot to think about when you are given a good gift and you break it and you hurt
Yeah.
it and you treat it like a science experiment. And, you know, there's all sorts of abuse out there.
Well, and
The
worse
truth,
yet, when you have multiple children and you keep repeating the cycle and repeat, like I have 8 siblings that I'm the
yes,
oldest of. So to watch it happen for 16 years of my life, knowing that my dad was not showing any signs of changing, this would have been the life of every single one of my siblings had my mom and I not had a discussion. I mean, it got where I was like, Mom, you need to leave. I'm out of here in 2 years. And once I'm gone, what is going to happen to the other 8 that are still here? Because who's going to be here to protect them? So, I mean, I played a little vital role in why my parents finally, separated and divorced because I thought, what am I going to live here for my whole entire life to try to protect my siblings?
yeah. I have a younger sister who's 9 years younger than me. And when it was time for me to like leave, because at that time our mom and dad, they were already divorced, but it just wasn't our father that is very abusive. It literally, like, it kept on being the hardest decision because I knew that I wasn't the parent. I knew that the law wouldn't, I mean, even though it was brought up and teachers knew and church members knew and the whole community flipping knew,
Mhm.
it there wasn't anything I could do in that moment but get away and stay away and try to be as supportive as my younger sister as I could be without having that interaction with our mother. But at the same time, at that young age, I wasn't trying to show my mother up or anything. I was trying to show her a different way. Show her a different way. And interestingly enough, she is just starting to be okay with talking about being sexually abused by her father, because not only is he dead, her brother dead, but her mama passed this last December. So it's like, and sometimes it takes everyone that has ever abused you to pass away before you have that freedom to breathe and to actually live in self-realization of what you have went through, what you have put others through. Okay. Now it's like my younger sister is an amazing individual. All of my siblings are, okay? And we have each handled this abuse differently. Oldest brother, he left 30 plus years ago in Texas, barely talks to anybody, drops a line every once in a while. One sibling, straight up psych issues, very sweet, very kind, good-hearted individual. I have an identical twin sister. She just stopped giving a flip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just stopped giving a flip. And then my younger sister, who was in that abusive situation with our mother by herself, and everything that she's gone through, and it's like having these little conversations. It's all like little, like something will happen and I'll be all like, your mom, just trying to find humor
Yeah.
in the survival of the situation that we were born in. As I hear all these, and I've read books. I've read books. I love to read. Um, I don't have it with me because I gave it away. I have another book here with me, but The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay. It is an amazing book. It goes through helping a person understand all the little voices in your head that you've agreed to, be it from your grandparents, church, the state, the country, all of these things that you agree to. You can change those agreements. You can change those agreements, but you have to remain honest with yourself and understand what you bring to the table is yours. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's what you carried with you from your childhood, it's yours
Mm-hmm.
to unpack and to hold it differently, to carry it differently. Am I ashamed that, I was beaten, abused, and all of this and all of that? At one time, I could not get over the fact that I couldn't get over it. And I just got really angry. And I was like 16, 17 years old. And I started putting my hands on people. And I realized that if I didn't get a handle on that, I was either going to be incarcerated or I was going to have to go into like MMA fighting. Like
Mm-hmm.
my temper was that short, that quick. I was done with being abused at the house. I was done with being bullied at school. Okay. And then coming to that agreement, all right, putting oneself into counseling. Now, depending on your income and everything, there's sliding scales. We can get online now, okay? And you can talk to people online. Having having someone that's paid to listen is not a bad thing,
Right.
as long as you are telling the truth.
Oh,
Because if
that's
you
that's
go
a
in
very big
there,
one.
that's right. If you go in there and you hopscotch around whatever, they're not going to be able to listen to you or hear you properly or even lead you off the path that you're on, because you're making a conscious decision to lie or to sugarcoat what you went through. Do not sugarcoat what you went through. Be honest, okay? You are not disrespecting anybody by sharing the truth that you lived through. You are not disrespecting your parents. You're not disrespecting your siblings. You're not disrespecting your last name or wherever, okay? You're not disrespecting anybody. What's disrespectful is for you to waste somebody's time and lie and add a little bit of sugarcoating when they already went to school and paid thousands of dollars to sit there and listen to help guide you. That's called self-care. There's other ways of self-care, but that right there, having somebody and being okay with the fact that they might look at you going like, that's not judgmental. That's somebody going, holy macaroni. You lived
Yes.
through that? Okay. And another book that I have found is The Hopeful Brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the neuro-relational repair for disconnected children and youth. Okay. Now this, it's really amazing. It goes through 2 decades of studies and everything of working with children that have been so abused that they have gone into situations to where they're not exactly thrown away, but they're put there because their amygdala and their hippocampus are constantly fight or flight, fight or flight. So finding books, yes, if I could get this in a hardback, I would. Books don't just to understand the science behind the damage that was done. Okay, it understanding the science between what can happen when I take in my green juice, what can happen when I give a dang to take a shower and do my makeup. These are all self-care things that was never taught. Like reading was basically a disciplinary action that was very gentle, along with at least a front and page back essay of what you read and why was that an issue. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so taking things that literally have been used as like abusive battering rams. Like, I love to clean my house now. Okay, it used to cause me great anxiety. Why? Because my hippocampus and my amygdala, as soon as I woke up, was trained. Get it done, or you're going to be broken. You're going to get hurt. So going to counseling allowed me to flip that, and to actually find gratitude in the fact that I have a vacuum cleaner, that I actually do have a mop, because I'm an adult and I can go out and buy those tools, you know,
Right.
you know, taking the edge off of what used to cause those fight or flight situations. A lot of it has to do with being able to remain present. Sadly, I get too stressed out, I disassociate still. And that happens. Why? Because of my amygdala and my hippocampus going like arguing with
Mm-hmm.
each other. So like I said about that relationship that I was just so into, actually, I don't remember most of it. I know I enjoyed it, but it was gross. It was like I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I just bypassed all the signs. But interestingly enough, I remember the good times, but the disassociation part, guys, that's when that starts happening, even with the calm house that I have, all right, it still can happen during around those certain times of the month, and hormones and this and stress and blah, blah, blah. What do? I fill my own cup. First off, I find something that I can texturally put in my hands that's alive. So I have 2 dogs, I have a
Mm-hmm.
couple of cats, and they help ground me to the now. Okay. Finding, finding sustenance, finding water, put water on my face or whatever. And there's times that I get offline. These things right here, having a computer in your hands, I don't know, I'm pretty addicted to that.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not filling your cup. Turning all of this off, spending a day bathing, loving on oneself, taking care of your hair, trimming your
Mm-hmm.
ends. No, you don't do the laundry or the dishes and call that self-care. That's taking care of your house. I am really big on like self-care weekends, like either Saturday or Sunday. I oil my hair, I put my hair up, I clean my face and blah, blah, blah. You have to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to put yourself back in the situation of fright or flight or
Mm-hmm.
fawn. You're going to be putting yourself in a situation to where either you're brown nosing, kissing ass, or you are just disassociated, walking on eggshells of your own making, because you did not take the time to reboot and to reinstall who you are now. And it's okay to do that when you're an adult, because you can give yourself your own permission to take all the time that you want and
I
all the
absolutely
space.
love that so much. And going even back to when you had said your sibling had finally found the courage to start to talk about this stuff more after the people started to pass away around her,
My
resonated
mom.
with me so much because that, like, I just became a best-selling author last month after sharing my chapter inside of the Empower Her book. So, yay. But I've
That's
been,
awesome.
thank you, but I've been wanting to do it for the longest time. But I stopped myself because I didn't want to hurt my parents or the people closest to me that would read it. That was the biggest thing that stopped me. So when you said that, I resonated with it. But then I also thought to myself, that's one of my other big things about doing this podcast is I don't want you to wait until it's too late. I don't want, time is such a thief. And if we're waiting for the person who hurts you to go to the other side, wherever it is that they're going,
You'll have
the
white hair too.
yes, the amount of time that you're
Yep.
wasting, and then I resonated with you too when, I was 16 years old. I mean, I know a lot of my listeners, I bet on social media for girl, you don't even know. Like, take my earrings. My one friend used to
Take
hold
my
her.
earrings. Like, I don't, this may a little be too much, but when my nipples got hard because somebody wanted to fight, I knew I needed freaking help. I knew I needed help.
Insane.
I was like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, we got to go to counseling.
It was bad for me like that too,
It
because
was
it was a
bad.
way for me to take control of myself and the
Yeah.
situation. And it's the same thing where you said nobody was ever going to touch me in that way. Nobody ever
Mhm.
could know. I mean, I don't want to brag about it, but let me toot my own horn for a second. I never lost a fight that I was in
Me
because the
neither. Because I
aggression.
blacked out and I went
Exactly.
till it was done.
Yes.
I went till it
because
was done. And I
because you
usually
had so
woke up
much
at the house.
aggression. Yes, you were just so, I couldn't do that to my dad. I couldn't fight my dad like that. So any person, any female that would start with me, I would always end it, and now as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so happy that I am not that person anymore.
Well, there's an emotional intelligence that we weren't raised with.
Yes.
Okay. So it's all like you get somebody up in your face and all you know is these two people and they're back and forth. It's like I was just done. I was just
Mm-hmm.
done. I was all like always the peacemaker, always trying to be nice. I didn't care if people were bullying me, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow. Like when dad left and it was just mom and us girls, I was like, it doesn't matter. I don't know if I was like, I knew it wouldn't get anybody's attention because it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I had this level of freedom to be all like, yeah, you know the way I walk home. And
Mhm.
to know that I can get there, am I proud of that time period? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I had to go through showing out and showing myself that I could protect myself with these
Mhm.
before I went and understood this, and to use this to get back into this and this and this, because that's who I was born to be. I was born a good gift. I was born with a logical mind that soaked up things that I don't agree to anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I have a family motto, that my own family motto when I started my own is, be just, have no fear. Okay. And that's even when you are seeing somebody, you're like, oh my God. So like sometimes I get told, Martha, that is not your business.
Mm.
Well, if it wasn't my business, it wouldn't be in my face.
Yeah.
It there's families out there. It's like there's a household down the road that sometimes I can hear the screams of the kids. I know the father drinks, okay? And the police watch that house all the time, okay? So I'm not going to call all the time, and I'm not going to call CPS because everybody that needs to be involved is already involved,
Yeah.
okay? But if I was out in public and I saw something, I would go to the parents' rescue, because their children are their responsibility first and foremost. So if I see a mom or a dad, even older than me, a grandpa or a grandma out in public still doing that old school, knock you upside the head, we're
Mhm.
not going to talk to you right now, we'll bring it up later. Okay. I'm going to be like, did that work for you? Did that work for you when you were that age? People forget so easily how easy it is to be a little kid's friend, to have that conversation. And when you have that with a kid, when you have that with a child and they act up or say they don't want to mind their mother or their father. Personally, I just saw, like, they come up to me, I was like, I can't talk to you because if you don't mind your mom and dad, then I don't know where you're going to be as an adult. And I want to be your friend, but you're not minding. You're not, and you children do have to understand to respect their parents. But it's like, I had a really good girlfriend one time, really good, and she started going through some issues, and it started showing with her kids, and we were like that.
Mhm.
And I told her, what you're doing is abusive to your children. I can't be around you because I'm about to bend you over and tear your butt up.
Yeah.
you know and I are we still friends? We still communicate every once in a while, and she has stepped out of that deep dark what the f,
Mhm.
because it's like when I first met her, she wasn't like that. Okay. And there have been times even in my own life, I'm not telling on somebody else, I'm telling on me too. I have one son. Okay. I wanted to have more. I was pregnant, had miscarriages, but I wasn't expecting to keep him. And he's going to be 23 years old this year. He is the bestest gift
Mhm.
I have ever been given. And there's still times that the two times that I've ever picked up a belt to whip him, me and him, we were in situations where there was another person present that was out of control themselves and wanted to control Aiden and myself. And I got so flustered and felt like I was the only person that could take control over the situation. And these are times that my son and I have talked about so much that he's all like, Mom, we are good. Okay. I know that that wasn't you on the normal at all. He's all like, I understand that it hurts you. I've let it go. Okay. As a parent, when those times happen, apologize.
Yeah.
Apologize for hurting them physically.
Mm.
Apologize for disrespecting their person. Apologize for not understanding that they're still the intelligent little kid that you gave birth to, that wants nothing other than to hear you tell them how to live life. Apologize. You're going to mess up. You'll mess up. But if you continue to struggle because you are stressed out, you really need to find somebody that you can trust with your babies, with your kids, and give yourself an impromptu day of self-care, whether you're a man or a woman. And I'm not saying that you got to go spend money. You can get a fishing pole and go down by the river and spend all
Absolutely.
day in the
Hmm.
sunshine. You can spend all day out in the woods gathering ticks and
Yeah.
foraging for mushrooms. Okay. In those times that you feel like you are reverting back to what you were raised with, think about what you wanted to do as a child: ride a bicycle, go out and ride a horse. You can go do that when you're stressed out now. You can say, you know what? I'm having a hell of a week. Y'all are going to grandpa and grandma's house. I'm going to go skinny dipping
Hmm.
in the neighbor's pool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying do illegal things, but you get the drift. You get the
Yeah, because what
understanding.
we're done doing is we're done raising children that have got to heal from being adult healing from their childhood. And it is a conscious decision to make. Like all like I know you said all of my siblings and I were doing so great, and it's such an epic thing to hear. That's the same way it is in my family. 8 out of 9 of my siblings are extremely successful. I'm talking like my one sister is going for her master's as an AODA counselor. I have two sisters that work in a dermatology office, one that works at a hospital, one that is finally, hallelujah, 2 years clean from being a meth addict after doing meth for 2 decades. I mean, my family has fought to get through the trauma. They have fought with the things that we have gone through, but this is why the podcast is here, because this has to start to resonate with people. We can only be victims for so long. We have got to start to take our lives back. We have got to start to have that control. We have got to start to show people it's time to live. It's time to be happy. It's time to have fun. It's time to smile. It's time to not live in fear. And if you do make a mistake, like you said, just own it. It brought me immediately to that one
Own it.
episode of Roseanne when she spanked DJ and because he stole the car, and Jackie and was like, "What are you doing?" And Dan said, and then she did. She called him down, gave him some cookies and milk, and apologized. Still grounded him for what he did, but
Right.
apologized for being wrong because she had been hit as a child.
Of how she reacted to the situation at that time. There's a level of cowardness that an abusive adult shows when they don't apologize. Either that, if an abusive adult does apologize and they continue their behavior, that's manipulation, and I, it's like, I can't say that I didn't damage my son, but he's the type of person that, as long as I raised him, as long as he approached me with respect as an adult, sir, he could express anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's all like he's all and that's called emotional intelligence, when a child is able to express their point of view in the situation that they live in. And that right there means so much to a child, just as much as it means to you and
Absolutely.
and it's like, I don't know if I've hurt my son to the point of counseling, but I know that we have an open line of communication, even though he's up in Ohio and I'm in Oklahoma. He'll get a hold of me in the middle of the night, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know, I don't have that. That's not what I was raised with. I was raised with, I've got to go find my own mother. I've got to go find somebody who can be a father. And that put me in situations that I learned from. And I have great relationships with people that are mother figures to
Mm-hmm.
me, that are father figures to me.
Yeah, my
And
grandma was my person my whole entire childhood, and I love her dearly. I know you have just been introduced to my podcast, so you may not have
yes,
gotten to the episode where it's I think it's called Just Make the Call. And I always say I want to call my grandma all the time. She's 94. She's a beautiful, wonderful woman. We just celebrated her birthday, and I've been calling her on a more regular basis. And she has said to me so many times in my adult life, you were always the second mom. So this last conversation we had, I happened to have been recording it because I told her that I dedicated my chapter to her and my grandfather because they were my saving grace when I was a child. 90% of my good childhood memories came from my grandparents, and I want this to go down in history that this is for my grandparents. So I told her that, and she's older now, and she's like, oh, you know how they get so cute, like, oh,
yes,
Darcie. And then she says, you always were the second mom, Darcie. And I said, I know, Grandma, you said that to me a lot of times, but I want you to know that I was able to find that kind of strength because of you. You were my person when I was a child. My mom was obviously very controlled by my dad. You know, she'd be cooking dinner with two kids and one on her back and one on her leg and the other one's outside starting fire in the yard. And it's like, how is she doing this? But my grandma was
survival,
but my grandma was always
survival.
able to keep it like calm and together and rally us together. And I don't think she understands the true importance of the little things, catching butterflies and fireflies and running through the cornfield and these things that were not my normal, everyday life of the abuse and the trauma. So
Grandma brought the magic.
yes, and she is still,
She helped
she
you
is.
understand your imagination was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I told her I strive to even be a quarter of the grandma that you are to my granddaughters. Like I show up for everything. I drove 33 minutes one way to see my granddaughter who just turned 5 off to get on the bus for her first day of school. Grandma had to get up at
Oh,
5:30 in the morning and I was like, "Grandma's coming, baby," cuz
that's what
I will
that's
be
what that's
there.
what you do. That's what you do because you are that grandma.
Yes, I
That's
am.
great.
This has been very enlightening, and I just have to tell you, I am extremely proud of you. I am very proud of you. I can tell in our conversation that you are unstuck from your trauma and stuck in your healing. And it's such a
Have
beautiful,
been,
powerful.
I have been
Yes.
because even though they weren't ready to be forgiven, I forgave. And I moved
Yes.
on as I built my own family. And I
Yes.
was honest with the help that I needed. And I went and did it.
Yes, you did.
It's that simple.
Your
It's that
story is
simple.
very beautifully powerful. I mean, it just is, like we have gone through some stuff, but coming out on the other side and being able to show people authentically who you are through the healing. And I hope and pray that this podcast continues to give people the hope that we can get through the things that we had experienced in our past, and we can be the best moms and the best dads and the best grandmas and grandpas and aunties and spreaders of just joy and love and peace, because so many of us say that we want it, but nobody does it. It reminds me of Kevin Hart. One time he was launching this new show, and he said everybody wants to be famous, but nobody wants to put the work into it. And it reminds me of, everybody says that we want to have peace, love, and joy, but nobody wants to put the effort into doing it.
Sometimes you just need a launching point where you feel empowered, and open dialogue and communication with ease and helping somebody become more fluid is where it's at. And I appreciate this container that you've made. Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah,
Darcie,
thank
excuse
you.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so thankful to share your story. I can't wait to see how it impacts other people.